Any citizens that want to speak? Yep, come on up. Name, rank, and serial number, otherwise known as name and address.
James Caldwell, 18439 Point. The writing and the approval is still kind of up in the air, but we should be getting to the end of that soon. A contractor is on retainer, so we should hit the ground running as soon as I can try to propose a little support from the city. So that's where we're at with Estella's. We're looking for a spring 2026 grand opening if everything goes correctly, and I'm excited to, feed the neighborhood.
Tell people what the restaurant.
Oh, it's going to be a Tex-Mex. It's going to be at 1740 Nassau Road 1, right here between the Wendy's and the Five Guys and the Shell. The Shell building that's been kind of vacant for a while. It'll be a 7,000 square foot footprint on the ground level with a 1,600 square foot rooftop patio, looking over into scenic Space Center. It'll see the Space Center, NASA proper, the new Aggie research building. So it'll be a nice view, especially for the galaxy lights. So I'm real excited about all that. So
just to be clear, that brand new spanking shopping center
Yes.
has been vacant for 2 years. You're going to be the
Yep.
first tenant.
yes, sir.
Yep.
So that's all drafted. Everything looks great. Got an LOI in place to kind of hold it while I get the finances figured out. And then once that's done, we're getting keys.
And are you taking 2 of the 5 spots?
I'm not sure how we broke it down. We kind of did a custom footprint. There's no walls set up in there quite yet. And I kind of came in and asked for a lot, and they gave it to me. So
It's about half.
yeah, it's about half of the
It's more
building.
than 2.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like maybe
Right.
two or three. They've allowed me all the tenant improvements that I wanted to do. So we will have margaritas with a nice overlook. We'll have a nice outside patio on the ground level as well as 2 full bars to kind of service Nassau Bay, and all the front parking.
Especially tequila bar.
Yeah. So it will be agave spirit forward, tequila Sotol, mezcals. Tons of fresh ingredients. So tons of great frozen and on the rocks margaritas, as well as I'll have old fashions and other prohibition era kind of cocktails. That's kind of the thing right now. So absolutely, everything is going to be fresh. Whatever I can source locally will get sourced locally. I plan to help bolster the Irma's Farmers Market. That's one of my first kind of big community outreaches, is to kind of get that back to its glory days. So I know it's about infusing some money and capital in there. So absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure.
Thanks, Chief. Hello, everybody. Pete Soroka, 18226 the Nassau Bay Drive. So what a year it's been. We're coming to the end. We're in the home stretch. Can you believe that? So it's been a whir for me because I had over the summer, I had a son get married in Seattle. That was very exciting. Then I had my 93-year-old mom pass away. That was sad. And then my beloved 13-year-old Belgian Malinois had a stroke a couple of weeks ago, and on a Saturday night at midnight, and that was fun. But she's still around for a while longer. So, but the reason I bring that up is because there is a new business that is called the Gulf Coast Veterinary Services that is down near Costco. I talked to the mayor about this, and they're the only 24/7, right? Our vet works Monday to Friday, Dr. Huber in League City, that we've had for 30 years, but not open on the weekends. So they did a great job there. My dog Abigail was in there for 3 nights. It's unbelievably, ridiculously expensive. So if you go there, the good news is that they provide the service if you need that. The bad news is, I just don't know how most people could afford that. But you'll have to make that decision, but it is nice to see that we continue to have growth in the area and businesses like that are available. And so I bring that up. So that was number one. Another comment I had, I was just going to ask Paul and Elias to see if we could get stronger communication on what's happening. The city looks great, looking out at the Festival of Lights out here and all the flowers, all the good things that have happened. But then when I drive around and I see all the construction that's going on, and especially now that we're a week away from Thanksgiving and then Christmas and there, Martinique and Nassau Bay Drive. I mean, I don't know if it's water breaks, Paul, or if it's the planned CIP improvements that we really didn't get on this year that we thought we were going to get on that in the first quarter to price it out, second quarter to take action. So we got a miss on that, and I understand that's all going to roll over. But now, now we're into the latter part of the year. And I don't understand what our plan is. And so I'm pretty active in the city, and if I don't understand, that means that most citizens don't understand what's the schedule. And I keep asking, is there going to be a schedule that's going to go out for residents? And I hear yes, 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 but that hasn't happened. Once in a while, you'll see a Facebook and it'd say, okay, we're shutting water off on these streets, but if we could tighten that up, that'd be, that's a constructive criticism on that, Paul, and take it that way. And then I brought up at Economic Development Council once or twice last year and at the city once about the development of the Davin Lane lot to something productive for the city. And I know I've talked to Chase and Lucy about this and the mayor, but, maybe now that we've gotten some of the major projects like, getting Margaritaville and some of the things that have taken tremendous amount of time, maybe now we can focus on one of the last opportunities. I mean, face it, we're not going to get another large waterfront lot.
Just warn you, your 30 seconds passed.
Okay, you want me to stop?
Just wrap it up.
Okay, so I just want to restoke the fire on that and put that in to see. I wasn't part of any of the budget meetings, so I don't know if anything's been budgeted on that, but I would just ask that the mayor and council, that you have conversations on that again. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Anybody else?
I sat too far away from this thing. Good evening. My name is Jamie Rocha. I live at 1419 Antigua with my husband Andy, and I came this evening to actually speak to you about what's on the screens right there. I'm here to invite our mayor, our city council, our staff, and of course our citizens to Nassau Bay's annual Keyboards at Christmas concert. It will be held on Friday, December 19th at Gloria Day Lutheran Church at 6:30 in the evening. Keyboards at Christmas, if you're wondering what it is an incredibly unique, one-of-a-kind event. We have 6 professional pianists on 3 Steinway Grands. We also have special guests from the Houston Grand Opera coming, as well as our very own Nassau Bay Children's. It's a youth piano group that they come, and we spend the entire evening singing Christmas songs, doing our favorites, and some you may not even know that was even there. So we have an amazing time. It is for families and for children. Everyone is welcome. You can see a lot of the information there. We have been working on this. The pianists have been meeting since September, so you are going to have an amazing evening of music. The tickets are free, thanks to the sponsorship of the city, private donors, and businesses. We're able to offer those for free. However, they are very limited. So my suggestion is to please go on. You can see that there's Keyboards at Christmas-NassauBay.com is our website. You can get to it there. Or you can just use your phone and scan that QR code and go right to the tickets. Reserve your tickets now. They're already filling up. And we are so excited to bring this annual tradition back. We also have donors from the community, and for those donorships, if you're interested in donating, we have several different packages you can choose from, and we absolutely have an amazing time. So I wanted to say thank you to the city, to the mayor, and to our citizens of Nassau Bay who have already stepped up on this wonderful event. And I will see everyone on December 19th.
I gotta do a plug. Your students dressed out formally in black tie.
They do black tie, they buy their own
They're
tuxedos.
Extremely
Professional.
mannered.
Yes.
Professionalism.
Thank you.
protocols,
Thank you.
and for a formal
Yes,
recital.
yes, we are all dressed in, thank you.
Spectacular.
Thank you. We're all dressed in dress black, but we welcome anyone driving in blue jeans. It's totally fine with me on that. But we want to bring this to you because we have found in years past that a lot of our younger adults and our children don't ever get that kind of experience. This is a true event for the community.
And I know it's up there, but in case people are not seeing the
Absolutely.
screen that way, please give the date,
Yep.
time, and location again.
It will be at Gloria Day Lutheran Church. It will be on Friday, December 19th. If you're wondering what day that is, that's the last day of school for the public schools here in CCISD. It will be at 6:30 PM at Gloria Day, and there will be signs everywhere to help guide you once you get there to the church. All you need is a ticket. You don't have to pay anything, but we do ask you to have that ticket because last year we were within, I believe, 8 tickets of selling out. So I really advise you to get your tickets now. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else? Any other comments? Going once? Going twice? 3 times? The citizens' comment section is closed. Moving on to council member comments. Mayor Pro Tem Saul.
Not too much tonight. We did have a really good experience at TML. I felt like we met a lot of great people, experiences, vendors. So I really enjoyed that, and I'll probably elaborate on that more later, but that's all I got for tonight.
Brian?
Let's see, enjoying the weather in my retirement. Lake Nassau looks great, so thanks to Paul and Public Works for tackling that. It was kind of fun watching somebody mow
Mow the water?
the water, yeah, for a while. So my family, we've already enjoyed the pickleball courts, and then just hearing already our citizens here, it's just an awesome time, again, to be in Nassau Bay, especially heading into the holidays. So I'm definitely looking forward to the holidays, just kind of seeing all the cool stuff that's happening.
Yep.
So that's it.
Jace?
This is not working out well. Okay, so I just had a couple of things. I reached out to Paul Lopez not too long ago. I'm sure you've all noticed that the streets have been painted, so the crosswalks, the stop lines, the turn lanes. So I reached out to him, and he quickly got that repaired, so I really appreciate that. Thanks for all that. Also, still working on the curbs. We had Clear Horizon students come out this past week. We had about 100 of them come out to do some gardening. 50 of those ended up helping me with some of the curbs. So we did Barbuda, Basilan, Saxony, and Caprice. So I went out on Sunday and did Barbuda and Basilan. Most of those houses, there was one house where the car was blocking, so I couldn't do that one. But I'll keep going there. I've also got some on, I believe, Antigua, Vinland, and Martinique that I'm also working on. So we're getting through those, but I did about 15 of them on Sunday. And then yesterday was Veterans Day, so I hope all my fellow veterans had a great day, and thank you for your service.
David?
Not much to add. I want to thank Maria. Over the weekend, some of the Christmas lights fell into the street due to high winds, so we were able to get those out, and I see sandbags on them now, so that's great. City looks great, and that's all I have.
This weather has been fabulous. I'm deep in the throes of helping or planning the reindeer fun run, so when I'm not here, I'm doing that, or I'm doing my 2 other full-time jobs, or carting my kids around like an Uber. We're ready to go. We have a healthy competition between the local area schools. I think, crazily, I think that Ed White is edging out Robinson in the number of student registrants. So we really do need to have the Nassau Bay kids start to register so that we can't have Ed White beating out Robinson Elementary. That would just, not be good. So, and this year we've got a new job for Phil. Phil is going to be presenting the check to the winning the students. So he's going to have a nice picture with all the kids and.
They're taking the air horn away from me. Just be honest.
I could give you a confetti thing if you'd like that. No, but what we want to do is have him present the check to the school that has the most registrants. This is a new thing we started this year, and it's been really great. So other than that, that's all I've got. That's December 13th. That's the day when all the other things are on like Holiday in the Park, except keyboards is on a different day, which is smart to do this year. So we're not all worn out by the time we listen to the piano music. So that's all I've got.
Not too much to add. I think most everything's been covered. I'm excited for the holidays. I do want to just say thank you to all the staff and volunteers. I know we've had a couple of recent volunteer events like the CCISD folks coming out, and then also we had not Paddle the Peninsula, but Paddle Lake Nassau or Paddle Nassau Bay with Jim Stowe. We had a bunch of veterans come out. They had a great time. Great weather that day. I know we have the Reindeer Fun Run, we've got the Christmas Boat Parade coming up. I thought Nancy Lynn would be here to speak tonight, but we will be having, and it's in the newsletter, a Christmas tree lighting taking place in the gazebo. I believe it's on Wednesday, December 3rd at 6 or 6:30. Everyone is invited, so please come join us, and I think we're going to be doing wreaths in here again, and then also followed by Christmas caroling, so we hope everyone can join us, and happy holidays.
I've got a couple of things, but it's some of them are around one theme, and you've heard a little bit of it. There's just a tremendous amount of work that I think you're going to see is going to take the city to another level of beautification. I can just say thank you to the Garden Club and thank you to the CCISD and the Parks and Recreation folks for Fall Sweep. Putting in here, I guess it's Fall Sweep number 2, but it was a number of different flowers were put in. They were focused on Point Lookout, they were focused on Upper Bay Road, and they were also at the entrance of the big park, David Braun Park. Just a lot of things were done there. And Chase, I think that was the biggest amount of street painting or the curb painting for the numbers.
They got a little ahead of me. I was like, guys, you don't need to do that many because I'm going to have to come back and paint all of these, but they did a great job.
But there were 110 kids from CCISD. 50% were with you doing stuff, so it's like 55 kids there, 55 kids helping out elsewhere. So it just showed what can happen with a little bit of volunteer and a crew of CCISD folks. They had a great time. So the other, got to call out to the city staff on the painting. I don't know if you've seen it, but a number of the crosswalks, a number of the area in the city has been painted. They had been kind of lacking because there's been some construction, there's been some different things, and now that we're rolling out the street construction, we know exactly where we can paint and where we're not. So from that standpoint, you can see that it just makes the city look better. And again, that's the road construction. You're seeing at least 3 sites now where they're taking out panels in the streets. We've taken a position that rather than repair a specific spot, we want to take the whole panel, including the curves, because it just looks nicer. So you're going to see a whole lot of a newer view once we get over, 14 spots? 13. Yeah, 13 spots that are going to be done, and they're good-sized spots. So it's going to just give that new feel with there. And then you got to love the galaxy of lights down Saturn, right? So a lot of really good things there. I also want to mention, James talked about Estrada and a restaurant going in there. Excuse me, Stella's, I'm sorry. But it's also the Planning Commission reunited the separation of that from a 2-plat to a 1-plat property in anticipation for Schaefer's going into that location. So besides anything that Pete mentioned, like around Margaritaville, we've got 2 fundamental sit-down restaurants and bars going into to Nassau Bay, which is just going to be a real added feature. And then the last, I always like to really call out exceptional kind of activity is, I think everyone's aware we had 4 boats that ended up trying to be abandoned in the cove. And there's just a multiplicity of call-outs here. I'm going to say the police did a great job. I also want to say there's the cruises that actually kicked it off and caught them in the action and communicated it, so we were actually there as this was unfolding, which was really a key to us being able to do enforcement, and is some of the things for tonight. But had we not taken action, we could have been liable to have to dispose of 4 boats at probably, I'm just going to guess, anywhere from 20 to 25,000, maybe more apiece. So you're talking a 100K hickey to the city, but because of good citizen input, because of good response, and being out there, some even with people out at 12:30 in the morning. Thank you, Chief. That ended up being a really good answer, and I'm sure we can talk about others, but I want to make sure of that. And then just the last thing is keep Jerry Roth, citizen, in your prayers. He had a very, very serious accident and broke his leg, I believe, in 6 spots, and is on the way to recovery, but it's going to be a long haul for him. So keep him in his prayers.
He won't be doing the reindeer run.
He will not. He will not.
He'll still take it.
Yeah.
He still wants a T-shirt.
So with that, that's all I had, but there's going to be a really nice look to Nassau Bay. It's already started with the painting and all the other stuff that's going on. It's going to look really, really nice, and it's continuing to look nice. So with that, I want to move on to the consent agenda, and with that is two items on here, which is A and B, which is consideration and possible action to approve the minutes of October 20th, 2025, the regular meeting minutes, and also the consideration and possible actions, the second reading of the ordinance 2025-1020-1 of the City Council of the City of Nassau Bay, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 20, Utilities and Services, establishing water and sewer rates, providing details relative thereto. Just so everyone knows, with the water rates, they're not changing, which is why it's on the consent agenda. Does anybody want anything pulled off? Anything further comments, modifications, edits?
I do have some modifications or
I knew
edits.
you would.
Sorry. So if you go to, under the old business for the minutes, under number 1, 2, 3, and 4, it listed as Mayor Johansson. So I'm sure that's supposed to be Johnson. And then also under new
Swedish
business, under new business, same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Need that correction as well. Number 6, though, was correct. And then under executive session, for both the adjournment into executive session and the closed executive session, those also should be edited from Johansson to Johnson. So,
There we go.
unless we have a new mayor, which I'm not aware of.
Swedish twin.
I have an edit I just saw as well. Under number 4, check presentation to can be accepted by Daniel Wilson and Spencer Carbajal. Daniel wasn't there,
He was
so
not.
I would say can be accepted by Spencer Carbajal, Jenny Castro, and Erica Burleson. Those were the representatives from Canby that were there that I remember.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
With those edits, I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Haley. Any further comment? Then I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to some things here, and just so everyone's aware, I'm going to be pushing this agenda. We've got actually a large executive session meeting, so we're trying to protect that, so we're not in for a late evening. But Paul, I think you'd like to give a council update on the hydrilla and the algae in Lake Nassau and the waterways.
Yes, Mayor. So early last week, the contractors finished up the hydrilla removal. It was right at 128 cubic yards, which is about 8 dump truck loads. We will be monitoring it. Everything looks good. We looked at it actually last weekend. I looked at it Saturday. It looks really good. He actually came back, I think, Tuesday. And then we're going to keep an eye on it and just see if it starts growing, and then we will try to stay ahead of it. And I've worked out an agreement with them with a price per day, which is $1,950 per day for complete, which is pretty cheap. So we'll be keeping an eye on everything and make sure it doesn't happen again.
The mowing of the water, I think, was the, but everything I've heard from people said it really worked well. I've gotten some pictures of people saying it looks like not the hydrilla side, but some of the algae may be trying to grow back, but it's really, from my perspective, extremely small. But
Okay.
that's, we just keep an eye on it.
Yes,
Any
sir.
other questions here? Because I know this was a big thing on council. Yep. Then moving on, the council input discussion and possible action to approve and authorize the city manager to execute a contract for cameras in the waterway and city parks. Paul, did you want to?
Yes, so we've had two presentations, one by Verkada and one by Flock System. And the four parks that were covered was Howard Ward Park, Swan Lagoon, David Braun, and Founders Park. Verkada proposal came in at $69,844. That's a 3-year contract. That's not per year. This is a hardwire system. And we've also had two the finger piers and the Nassau Bay Cove. Also, we wanted additional costs for that to see what that, and that came out to $89,856.81. And this will allow facial recognition for individuals on boats. And then Flock Safety came in at $31,500 per year, which comes out to $94,500. But that does not include the finger piers or the Nassau Bay Cove. But they will not do the facial
So
recognition.
if I remember in the presentation, apples to apples, if you did include that, Verkade, or Verkade.
Verkada.
Verkada, I cannot pronounce that, is about 20% less.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions?
I suppose my question is kind of for Chief, with us already having a flock system in place, does it make much sense to go in the direction of another vendor? Or, it seems like you should kind of go with with what we've got. If costs are all fairly equal.
We are familiar with Flock. We've worked with them. We've worked with their customer service already. They're very responsive. I think the last time I gave you an example, we had an issue with one of the Flock cameras, wasn't picking up the vehicles, and they were able to take care of that remotely before coming out here. One of the things, the Flock would remain with only 2 camera systems in the city. We have one system for the buildings that's here, a Vigilon, and then we have Flock, which is the license plate readers right now. And we would be adding on the live camera system to the Flock platform already. Flock did reach out to Paul and I last week, and they got the approval to put in some additional or some temporary cameras for a pilot program if we wish to do that. So that's an option.
I have 2 comments. When Flock presented in our last meeting, the visibility in the camera shot that they showed us from way down the street, that was still very visible, if I'm remembering correctly. Thousands of feet away. I think that was impressive. The other thing I would say about facial recognition, I didn't hear how exactly they go about that with AI, but my understanding just with other experiences and work and things like that, the only way they're going to be able to recognize a face is if it's already in the system somehow. And I don't know of what benefit to you, Chief, outside of our jurisdiction would actually benefit in that for us, particularly. So those are my 2 comments.
Yeah, I'll turn that into a question. I really don't understand why facial recognition is a discerner here personally, because I feel like we're looking for nefarious people. We're not trying to figure out when, James is jogging through the park. I don't really care about that. I don't want to even get into the legalese of having a system that can recognize people's names. I just assume if you have a shot of somebody, you can take it from there, right? And you can go attempt to identify that
I
person.
disagree. What I guess I'd like, because I think Paul had some things here one of the things that facial recognition does, like say we have a pedophile, or if we have somebody we know who's there, and we know those are people in there, and if they're down in the parks by the children's books areas or things like that, we would have absolute knowledge of that going on, which is, if you let me, things here. The second is, with the boats in particular, this go-around, the big part was that we actually caught them in the act, and we were able to identify them. If we don't have a system to do that, if I were to say, if that had happened at 3 o'clock in the morning and we just discovered those boats in the morning, they would have been abandoned, we wouldn't have anything, and we wouldn't have any type of ability to even correspond with the owner, to the facial, to any kind of driver's license, to be able to affect, the perpetrator. So in my mind, we have the guy now, we even see him again out there with boats, we have the ability to track that. I think it's a major advantage for us to have that, and I personally, it's a discriminator for me. And I also look at the cost is, I don't want us to compare 94 to 89, or 95 to 89 or 90, because that's not the same number of actual cameras. It's actually about 25% less, 25% less for the Verkada. So I really like those aspects, and the hardwire part too, which is the flock system is going to be solar. So anything in regards to power, anything along that line, and any winds, we've had issues with that. So my view is having it hardwired, having it in there, it allows for the integrity, it's cheaper, and it has more scope. I even believe, if I remember with the flock, they had trouble with some of the distance ones, the actual precision and the distance for reading even license plate was better with Verkada than with the flock system. And in the demonstration, I also picked up that it had trouble, sinking in real quickly. The Verkada system was much quicker. So I believe it's a major decrease in capability for the city by going the flock system versus Verkada. And I actually wonder if it even says we may even want to move to that in further activities, because it is things we are going to need.
So I like the flock LPR system because it does coordinate or talk to other areas around here, and
Does.
I think there's a huge advantage to that. But I was very impressed with the Verkada system when they came, and I know it's a little unfair because they came first, but they came strong, and I was extremely happy with what they did. And then when I saw the price comparison, to me it was a better deal for something that I was impressed with. So financially, Verkada made more sense to me.
I'm still
The
lost on the
only
facial
other thing I'll add in for
recognition.
council is, the Verkada cameras, that's a purchase of those cameras. The Flock is a subscription service. If we have a camera that goes down, they'll replace it. If they upgrade their systems, all our cameras get automatically replaced without an additional fee.
Are you recommending flock without and that you don't want the facial recognition?
I don't know anything about the facial recognition. I don't know what the database is where they're getting the facial recognition. I don't know the legalities.
But you're saying you'd recommend the additional cost for the flock over the Verkada system?
I would like to see us take the advantage of putting the flock system in and seeing how that works in our city. Councilwoman Summers talking about the accuracy and the clarity. If we had those in our city to see how they're actually working, like as we do with the Verkada, then we would have a comparison.
Paul, do you share that?
Well, Steve mentioned that Flock asked if they could put the pilot system, but the one key thing is the facial recognition. It's I would say it can track if, like the mayor said, if we have a pedophile we know pedophile or someone stalking somebody, as soon as they hit our parks, we will know, we will get a hit that they're in our parks. And I think that was one of the big key things. As far as the legalities, I don't know,
So we know Verkada has that information? We know they have a database of pedophiles and their names.
No,
and
sir.
their faces.
No, sir.
Well, then I think, I'm trying to figure out, are we talking a technology or the ability to actually put a name to a face?
Not a name, just the face, but not the information
Well,
or the
if they
person.
can't put a name to
I
the
haven't-
face, then they can't find a pedophile.
Verkada hasn't talked to me about how they identify somebody, what database. So that'd be something I'd like to research with them a little bit further.
Yeah.
Also, the legalities of if we identify somebody and there's
Flock says
charges.
they will not provide it.
Flock will not,
Period.
no. No,
They will
Flock
not.
will not.
But once you have the footage, you can then go do facial recognition. You can put it in a safe legal system to go determine who that person is.
I also, on the facial recognition, want to understand more about how they store, like, for example, you mentioned James running in the park, like, are they studying my face, my children's faces, like, what all is being stored and how is it used? I worry about just security of that in general.
Well, I mean, you're in public, so you have no
Yeah.
privacy, right? So you're
Correct.
basically, it's a one-party consent in the state of Texas, so if you're in public, they can take a picture of you. So you can't argue with that. Now, my issues, and kind of to talk to a couple of things that were mentioned here, the cost, I like that it's a little bit cheaper with Verkada. Also, we get access to the waterways, like Phil was saying, having them at the Finger Piers, having them at the Cove. I think with the measures that we're taking on the water would be important for us. I did have an issue with Flock. They kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I went back and looked at that specific location that they mentioned. He made a statement that it was like 2,000 feet. It was about 950 feet. So it was about half the distance, and you're still not getting the quality. So I had a big issue with that. And Lucy said that Verkada came first, and they came strong. I will say that they came first and they came prepared. They knew what they were talking about. They were accurate with their reporting from what I could tell. With the facial recognition, like I said, you're in public, they can take a picture of you. Now, I don't anticipate that they're going to have a database with all the pedophiles and people's names, but if you have accurate photos of someone's face,
Correct.
because we had an instance with a previous council member, their child was, almost kidnapped at a park here in Nassau Bay, and if we had a photo of that person's face, we could tag that, and then we could come back, if that person came back to the park again, we would be able to recognize that face, and then, great, we have Flock system, we can track the vehicle that person was in, and we can see if that person comes back into our community. So I think for me, I think more coverage, more safety for the community, and more ability for the chief to have law enforcement with regard to the Finger Piers, with regard to the Cove, is very important to me. I would personally like to see Verkada. It's great that, Flock would be a system that we already have, but I don't want to just go with the system that we know. I'd rather go with the system that I believe is better. So that's my 2 cents.
My 2 cents here. I know we've covered a lot, but like Chase said, I think Verkada was definitely the front runner. They did come prepared. I do like the facial recognition feature, the fact that we had these boats out in the Cove. I think that would have come in extremely handy. And then from a cost perspective, and we're not locked into this for life, so it's a 3-year contract. If we get in there and we don't like it, we can always have the ability to change. But to me, Verkada was a clear front runner. My 2 cents.
Any other comments?
And then we have to remember about Flock, that there's many other communities that also have Flock, and so when there's a perpetrator in another community, our Flock system will pick up if this perpetrator is in our community, whereas,
We'll still have that.
Yeah, we'll still have that through
We'll still have
LPR,
that.
right?
Just
We're
not
not gonna
in the
do the
parks
LPR.
and the areas.
Yeah.
We're still having a flock system.
right, we still have the Flock, but I guess we won't have all the additional system. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but.
I don't think that the different agencies share information, share the live videos.
Okay.
Like they do the license plate reader programs.
Okay.
That's shared because those are put into hot lists and when those numbers come up. So it's not operating the same with respect to sharing the information across the other agencies and the other departments and stuff.
Okay, and Paul, I'm sorry, you've been speaking very close to the microphone. I didn't hear what you said as far as like the cost of, what's the total cost of?
You should have put a packet on your desk. So the total cost for Verkada with the 4 parks only is $69,844.85. To include the Nassau Bay Cove and the Finger Piers, $89,856. And Flock safety per year is $31,500, which come out to $94,500 for the 3-year period. apples to
That doesn't
apples.
include the waterways.
But that does not include the waterways.
I was disappointed that they didn't come with that as a full scope of the project.
Did we ask them?
We did.
Haven't we had these Verkada cameras up for like a couple months now?
Yes, ma'am.
And how are we liking them?
So far, the good. I've been sending council video footages and
Okay.
pictures and stuff. I
Okay.
mean, everything that I've reviewed, I mean, it looks good.
And Paul, aren't there surrounding cities that are using the Verkada system already?
Yes, just, I believe he's working with Webster, I think Harris County Parks. There was like 10 surrounding
Yeah,
parks.
they're
Yes.
beautiful cities,
I don't
yeah.
have them off the top of my head. Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I would just like to caution council about the facial recognition, just because whatever Verkada's facial recognition is, in identifying a vehicle or a boat or whatever, and there's going to be some legality issues that I'm not familiar with, because those are one of the reasons that Texas did away with the red light cameras, because we have to personally identify the person who's operating the vehicle or the boat or the vessel or whatever, and I'm not sure that facial recognition substitutes for that. I don't know if Mr. Gregg has any experience in that or not, but.
If I could just make a comment on that, I think that the issue with the red light cameras, like you said, we didn't know who was driving those vehicles. It may have been registered to somebody, but you don't necessarily have a photo of them. Facial recognition is a little bit different in that it's not your vehicle, it's literally your face, unless there is some kind of like mask or something that they're trying to put on, which I would imagine you would likely be able to tell through a facial recognition. So, I mean, that would be my counter argument to the red light camera being a comparable situation.
Any other comments?
I guess I'd just like to ask Mr. Gregg, do you have any opinions on facial recognition or any of that stuff?
I haven't had a chance to look at it. I don't know. I'm sure that there'd be some issues, but it sounds to me like it's distinguishable, but I'm not sure.
But if there was something you could always turn it off. It's still cheaper. Well, then, any other comments? Any other?
Yeah, it says it will allow for it, so like what you
Yeah.
said, I would imagine we could turn off that feature.
Yeah. Then I'd ask for a motion.
I would move to approve and authorize the city manager to execute a contract for cameras in the waterways and city parks with Verkada.
Do we hear a second? Second by Ashley. Any other comments? I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? All those not? Passes 4-3. Okay. Next is the council input and discussion and possible action. This is probably more for discussion, but regarding emergency response on the waterways. You know, this is something Paul and I wanted to put on this because it was really wanting to get the feel from council. One of the things that was probably the most frustrating is having people continue to do activities out on the water and our ability to, our lack of ability to be able to do anything. I mean, there was some ability to try to do with spotlights or anything like that, but they kept proceeding even though we had police out there with Q-beams and doing stuff. I even talked to one of the officers, and they were there saying, well, we don't have anything, we don't want to bring the big boat out because we've got to get everything coordinated, and we don't have anything to be able to actually respond when we see something illegal happening on the water right in our waterways. So the question was, and this was also for the chief, what are things that we should be looking at to see how we can respond other than bringing out the big safety boat and that, because that takes time, and it's also the big expense, and it usually relies on our volunteer fire department. What are some of the things here? Paul, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, or?
It was mentioned about a drone, possibly. I'm reaching out to some companies to see if that's something they could look at. I know the surrounding cities are looking at some things on the water also.
What kind of, what is, say that?
Some other cities are looking at some type of, the vessels and what to do about different types of things. So it's a big discussion with the other cities right now. But, one is maybe possibly, if this is something that we want to discuss and budget, to purchase another boat or a drone or something like that. I mean,
Any thoughts here from people?
What is a drone bias? Can we use drone footage for, is that illegal?
That's something that they're looking into right now. A company I'm working with is looking into it. Because it's kind of new, not the drone, but the footage and, if it's going to be some kind of lights and then I have to get with Chief for the manpower, how that's going to work out and all that, so.
But what I don't understand with a drone is I get certain parts of it, which is you're no longer standing at the edgeway. You actually have a tool that would put you within 10 feet, right? But it's still cameras. It's still things like that. You can have a verbal exchange. I don't know if that buys anything for you from this. I think it could, but I don't know.
I don't know, Mayor, and I'll be honest with council, this is first, I'm hearing a discussion about having a drone and using it for anything like that. Hasn't been discussed. So again, we'd have to be looking at legalities, how things operate. I will tell you that the incident the other, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, that night there was a cold front coming through, a northern. I did talk to Tom George, and he and I made the decision for the officer safety and the fire personnel safety. There was no life or limb endangerment going on out on the waters at that time for us to put the water in.
Sledgehammer for a screwdriver need, right?
So, we made the decision we weren't putting the boat in the water for the safety of our personnel to go out there. Look what happened last week just over in Texas City. They, and they were in a life and death situation with a boat out in the water, same situation, a front coming through, and they had their boat overturned, and they had 6 firefighters go in the water that ended up in the hospital. So for that decision, that was our decision as an operational thing, that it wasn't worth just to find out who's out there with the boats. We had identified those boats previously. I'd been working with those boats, at least the big blue one, since October the 8th. So this was something that we were going on. We already had identified, or thought we had identified the owners of that boat. Then the other 3 boats came up. We actually, I did end up coming out at midnight, 12:30 in the morning. Sergeant Bain was already talking to the wife of the, because we had the information on the van. He was talking to the wife of the gentleman who was on the boat.
Yeah.
We spoke with him by speakerphone, identified him and all 3 of the boats that were there. I went over to his house the next morning, talked to him, advised him about our city ordinance, that boats needed to be moved. Of course, the water was going down. He was able to get one of those out by Wednesday evening. Obviously, Thursday, if anybody went out there and looked, the bigger boat was still in the water. The other 2 boats were laying on their side because they were basically beached because the water was so low. But once that water rose the next morning on Friday, again, I asked him for a timeline. He didn't give us a timeline. Went out there, we filed charges on him, and those boats were moved by that evening.
But we also know that one of those boats is on the creek side now. It's in Galveston County. It's not in our jurisdiction.
It's in.
But that's what
it's
he
kind of in
wanted
the
to
no
do
man's
there,
land.
and it's still there.
Yeah, it's kind of in that no man's land triangular area over there.
Yeah.
So, and that's outside our jurisdiction, and I know that League City is looking at spearheading some kind of talks with all of the agencies and cities around the lake.
But my suggestion here would be, you've expressed it, concern, like with a jet ski or something like that, particularly if only one officer goes out there, that there's safety issues there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I get that. I also am very concerned that, with, regardless, even though the safety things there, I've crossed the bridge where I really don't want to put our volunteer fire department out in enforcement type activities too. I think that's really putting them in a place we don't want them. That's not their role, that's not their job. So
Sure.
just like, we did with the cameras and things like that for the vandalism that we saw in the parks, we came here. Can we ask you to kind of like look at that, benchmark what other people are doing? Because you know, there's nothing more frustrating for, you know, I'll say for me to see your guys out there trying to flag down and people flipping you guys the bird, saying, you know, you can't get me. And we have to have something better than that, than just Q-beams from the side.
I can check, I know League City's looking at enhancing their enforcement, but 90% of what they're looking at is within their marinas and not necessarily out in the middle of the lake or out in the middle of the cove or out in the middle of the creek. They're dealing with other issues within their marinas. I know Seabrook has an issues with with people living on their boats out there.
We don't have
that are anchored out there off of Seabrook, and that's a big problem. And I've talked to the chief over there, and they don't have an answer for it.
I would really like, from the police perspective, just to say, if we, you know, what would we need to be able to enhance our ability to intervene and be able to do things particularly if we see something that needs immediate response. You know, you can talk about if there's, you know, just any reasons other than, you know, looking at getting the big boat out.
We can research it. Again, it goes back to manpower again also. We have 2 officers working and not going to put one officer out on, you know, on a boat or anything by themselves. And not going to take 2 officers off the street and put them on a boat and have nobody on, you know, in the rest of the city. So again, we're talking about a manpower issue either, also. So, but we can research it and see what the others are doing.
Because I'd really like from y'all, if you would like to say, hey, from your team, just saying, hey, what are some things we could do more than, you know, being at the edge of the water, and that's as far as we go.
We can look into it.
I mean, I don't know what other people think.
No, I agree, because being out in the open water or being out in Clear Lake adjacent to Nassau Bay is definitely different than coming in where you're within the city limits of Nassau Bay.
Correct.
And I do have a question. So if there's a crime on my street and you can use my Ring camera for that, can you use a private drone footage for a crime within Nassau Bay city limits on the water?
So private drones, there's part of the Texas statute that says that it is a violation of state law to use a drone for surveillance purposes.
So we'd have to have stationary cameras to be
Unless
able to
it's
use
part
that?
of his law enforcement.
Oh, unless it's part of his law enforcement, okay.
Yeah, law enforcement has obviously different guidelines.
My view would be as fun, and I do use
But yeah,
humor,
but-
you'd have a big honking drone with, you know, Nassau Bay
I know,
Police
but if we
Department.
already have great
But
citizens
your
that are
question
out
was
there
about
getting
private drones, and
footage.
I would say no, because that doesn't fit the statute, and it actually violates the statute, using private drones for surveillance.
Right.
So just because it's a drone, not because it's private, because a Ring camera would count.
Right, ring cameras, yeah, those, if there's footage on there that enhances us, and we've used those before.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah,
Trying to
because
understand where the line
it's
is.
the
I
drone.
think what the issue is, the Ring camera is catching like a public street, like it's just recording what's happening in front of it. A drone is going like into someone's backyard.
Correct.
And then that becomes a Fourth Amendment issue.
Yeah.
If they're going to use it. It's an offense if a private citizen's doing it. That's under the statute, what the chief is saying. But I think.
We've had some of that
if you-
in this.
And my concern with using the drone as compared to like cameras facing the public is that it could trigger some issues with an unlawful search.
Fair, yeah, okay. I'm just curious, thank you.
Any other comments? Are people okay with that?
Okay with what?
Okay. You know, having him take a look at it, come back
Oh,
with
yeah.
benchmarks and make some recommendations?
Yeah, I would definitely want to see what the parameters are
Yeah.
going to be. Like, if it's going to be specifically used, like, for the Cove, when it's like dangerous weather outside, that's probably not an issue. But if it's something the police department is going to carte blanche use, I would have an issue with that.
But I mean, I use it just like with the cameras, it started off with them, with the police looking at the different things, and I'd really like to understand that, because I really don't want to have the volunteer fire department on
Yeah,
enforcement.
I can do some research with the other agencies and see what they're doing.
That'd be
You know,
great.
some of the agencies, Lakeview PD, Kema PD, they don't have any boats.
Yeah,
So,
interesting.
You know, it just depends on different agencies, and, but we'll see if anybody has any.
I do
If anybody
believe-
has any magic
Well, go
bullets, if any of the other agencies have any magic bullets, or, you
I don't know.
know, something that we can use, you know, that you know, other than, you know, from the shoreline at that particular time.
Okay.
So drones are also limited due to the weather and stuff like that too, so, and it depends on the cost and, you know, how much we want to spend on a drone, so, but we'll look into it.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
that works.
And thank you for going out to the house and trying to figure out who these people are. It's really appreciated.
Yeah, I thought we had identified the owners of a couple that were living in Seabrook, but we didn't have actual addresses, and then we found out later on that it was actually somebody ownership here in Nassau Bay, so.
They lived in Nassau Bay?
I'm sorry?
The people in the lady in the van lives in Nassau Bay?
Yes, ma'am.
Go get it, Ashley.
So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next is consideration and possible actions. This is a first reading of an ordinance, 2025-1112-1- an ordinance amending ordinance number 0-2020-793 of the City Council of the City of Nassau Bay, Texas, to amend Chapter 9, Health and Sanitation, Article 1, in general, Section 9-1, neglected or deteriorated vessels by clarifying the definition of offender and the addition of another condition precedent. And this is basically just out of the incident that we had. I think Dick Gregg was, our city council was, counselor was asked if there's ways in which we can tighten our ordinance just to be able to provide even more support for the police and tightening up. Because at the end of the day, if we had ended up with these 4 vessels, it would have been an extraordinarily expensive, impact on the city. So anything that we could do to tighten that is what was asked of the city attorney.
Which is what we did. Whether owned or not, it clarifies it. It was already on the books, but it worked as it was written, but this makes it a little clearer. So I think you ought to do it.
You want to specifically, you got it in the yellow, right?
Yeah, the yellow portion says whether owned by that person or not. It basically deals with an offender who is a person who permits the unmanned vessel, whoever owns it. And that's what that's for.
Yep.
So what does this currently do for us? I know we're adding the whether owned by a person or not, but how do we currently use, or how can we currently use this?
Well, you still have to know who that person is, whether they're the owner or not the owner. You need the ownership alone, just like if your car was stolen and something happened to it, it wouldn't be your fault if you didn't do the stealing. So it's the same problem with the boat. We've got to identify who's the culprit, who the offender is. This does make it clear you don't have to be the owner.
So what has become a trend out on the water is that people leave boats in marinas that are abandoned, and then the marina owners, who are not the owner of the boats, want to get rid of the boats, and they bring them out, and they abandon them in public areas, like the Cove. There's a number of them out on Clear Lake. It's a problem. It's things going on here, and to me, that's a minimum of what we should do, is to make sure that we're not just going after the owner. We want the perpetrator, and the perpetrator is more than likely not going to be the owner in what we've seen with the
Often it's not.
Often it's not.
So I guess I expected this to result in a fine or some kind of, what's the result of violating this ordinance?
Well, the court can set a fine for the highest amount allowed by law. It's up to the court.
Which is what?
It depends on the violation, but it's typically, it would be up to, in one instance, 2,000, right?
I'd have to look at it. There are certain exceptions to the 2,000 maximum fine. That has to deal with health and safety, and some other things, so.
Which is why we worded it maximum by law, because it depends on how it comes into the court, and how it's charged.
Well, let me ask the question here, is with abandoned boats with no lights, wouldn't that be a safety and be maximum penalty?
That would be the argument. It'd still be up to the
Is
court.
that what we did with this last one?
No, we filed this particular ordinance is what we filed for the derelict and neglected vessels. No lighting and stuff like that would come in.
You filed that as a part of a ticket?
Yeah.
It was filed with the court.
Cited.
Yes, it's cited and filed with the court.
That's pending right now.
It is pending, and then it'll be up to the judge to make the decision. Judge Williamson will set the fine on
Did it have in here the safety aspects of it versus just the derelict side of it?
It has the maximum allowed by law, and then it just says that if you leave it abandoned, it's a violation. It's up to the court to determine how it fits.
Yeah,
So
I'm not sure what the safety
So
aspects.
you mentioned that there were different categories. and that the
That's-
maximum is
that's
if
for the
it was
maximum
safety. And I was looking at this was, to me, as an obvious safety. I'm not sure that's actually what happened.
That would,
because-
yeah, that would be up to Judge Williamson to decide if it was eligible for that $2,000 maximum, because that's not every Class C misdemeanor.
Yeah,
that
every
has-
one of them doesn't fit.
Doesn't fit into
So
that.
as part of what, when you file that, do you state safety issues or anything along that line? Or how would she
You as in the
know?
police department, or what?
Yeah, our
Okay.
police department, when
We just file the charge. We just file the charge.
but you
In
don't
this
have
particular case-
any information about safety issues or anything like that? How would she even know there was a safety issue?
The ordinance itself, the language in the ordinance, whether it fits in to the portion of the state code that allows the $2,000 maximum. Not every
But-
charge in the municipal court.
But if the evidence presented, and I'll defer to the two lawyers, but if the evidence doesn't suggest there's safety issues, how would a judge know there's a safety to it?
That
By
would
the-
be
by the
the
evidence.
language, by the language of the, I'm sorry, Mr. Gregg, go ahead.
That's all right, would be what evidence is presented at the time of the charge, too. It would be presented in court on that, at that time.
So my question was that presented with this to have safety issues?
Not
for this
necessarily.
Violation.
The charge was filed just as the ordinance violation.
As a violation of
As
this
a
ordinance.
violation.
But was there any information done where it indicated the safety aspects?
Well,
That
when
would
you-
be presented-
Can I interrupt for a second? When you
Yeah.
write a citation, when you write a ticket, right, you gave him a citation, correct? And so when you detail on the ticket, you say, so-and-so did not moor their vessel, or whatever,
No,
or
no,
so-and-so.
just violation of city ordinance.
But then you do have,
With the statute, with the section, and then the title of the offense.
but you might write in there, I mean, on Class C
Don't think they
citations
did.
I've seen, there is a place where you can detail what happened. Like
That would-
there is space.
Not normally when it's filed with the court.
So Holly wouldn't know if nobody was there that there would be a safety issue because we just did this and some boats were out on our water.
Right. She would set the fine, not for the individual offenses, but for the statute or the ordinance itself. And she would have to look at all the language in the ordinance and determine where that would fit in her fine window. Or,
So how can we arm her better? Because I can't think of anything more dangerous than 4 boats in the middle of a cove, which can have up to 150 people in it. And, when in the peak where people are trying to drive at night, sometimes if it's empty, it's even worse because people, even though we have a no wake, will go through there 30, 40 miles per hour.
well, I guess I'm not being clear enough. It's not the language of the individual charge for the individual incident. It's the language of the ordinance, how it's written. And then there's a maximum, usually the Class C charges filed in the city court are a maximum of $500 fine. There are a couple of sections or a couple of caveats where they can be up to 2,000, but it has to be, it has to fit
I agree
within
with
certain
you.
criteria
I
within
agree
the
with you.
statute. And then that has to be determined by the court, does
So
that fit?
that's
in
what I was
there?
wondering here.
It doesn't have
is,
anything to
how
do
we-
with
how
this
do we-
particular incident.
How do we help you be able to, because I would want it to be very clear to a judge without any ambiguity.
Because the language is already in the
The
ordinance.
ordinance already
Yeah,
says.
yeah, I
But-
don't think
but-
you want to be too specific, because then you limit yourself to what you can charge
That's
people.
exactly right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I get that, but at the same time, I don't, what I understand is what I heard, and maybe I heard it wrong, was that our judge, Judge Williamson, wouldn't have the data to be able to say whether there was a safety issue or not.
She'd have the ordinance.
That
She'd have
would
the
come down to the
ordinance.
ordinance
but the
and then
data
the
wouldn't
facts of the
say-
case itself.
So when the judge sets a fine, so let's, and I don't want to speak for the judge, and Mr. Gregg, correct me if I'm wrong. So let's say running a red light. The judge sets a fine for running a red light, a window fine. If somebody wants to come in and pay it with the court without having to come to court, they can pay that fine. They can mail it in or pay it at the window or whatever. She sets that fine, not because Mr. Jones ran a red light and nobody was around, or Mr. Jones ran a red light and there was, full traffic. She doesn't take that into account. She takes into account the offense as it's written and what's in the offense.
But I would look at a different analogy that would better describe, because that's just a one criteria. I look at speeding. If you have a speeding ordinance, but then we have reckless driving, which is 20 miles per hour over the speed limit. If we don't say what the speed limit is and just say speeding, how would somebody know to do a reckless driving other than what is cited by the police?
Reckless driving is a whole separate
charge.
offense from, charge from.
So let me ask you this, is, do you feel, and that, and again, that's why I was really, that the safety aspect to drive a higher penalty, just like reckless driving is a higher penalty, is identified in this ordinance so that the judge would be able to see the difference between a reckless driver and a speeder?
Yes, the information is already written in the language of the ordinance.
Okay.
There.
I thought
Yes.
so too.
Okay.
Is there a time factor to this? So if you put a boat out for 30 days, is it the same penalty as 1 day?
48 hours.
My understanding is it's 48 hours, and it's an offense for every day you leave it out
Every
there.
40 hours and
Every day.
Okay.
So the way it reads is, it says for 48 hours, that's the change in number 8. And then if you look at the penalty itself, at the end of that, it says, each day of violation shall be deemed a separate offense. So I think
Right.
once you hit that 48 hours,
Okay.
every single day, you're committing a new offense by
Yes.
leaving it out there.
Thank you.
So,
And the
on
court
Friday,
controls the
when the
fine.
gentleman was issued a citation, when I met with him at his house and issued a citation, I announced that this is your first citation, that every day was a separate violation. Those boats were moved by Friday evening,
I bet that's right. That's how it should be.
so.
They work.
yeah.
Let me, and from here, that 48 hours, or we weren't 48 hours, how were you able to do that within the 48 hours? Or is there something we need to help you with that? Because my understanding is it takes 48 hours of a duration in order for the first trigger for that, but we were able to do it.
No, for the ordinance, the derelict and neglected, no.
For the presumption of abandonment.
The presumption.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
That ordinance wasn't dealing
It
anything
works.
with abandonment.
I love it.
Yeah.
It works.
wasn't dealing anything with abandonment. It was dealing with the condition of boat and the registration.
Okay.
And that's what we were working on doing,
Well,
verifying the registration.
Not abandoned, but unmanned and left there for 48 hours.
Yeah.
not necessarily
But I was
abandoned.
focusing
But
on,
even at an unsafe
I was focusing
boat,
on the condition of the boat, and the
Yeah,
last,
correct.
Right.
the last element
Well
on
done.
there is proper registration, and that boat's not properly registered.
No question.
Right.
Or lit, or anything like that
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah,
All that.
when these boats get, left there, do you see like the registration, all that stripped off? Or is it
Sometimes.
just- Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
I
we
mean,
cannibalize
that's-
them a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I represent Seaburg Shipyard, and they run into that problem a lot.
Yeah. One of the two boats that we ended up taking out of the water last year, one of the two boats did not have a proper TX number, and we had to get the Marine, North Star Marine, where we had the boat stored. We had to get them to get us the hull number off of the vessel so
Yeah.
we could identify it.
So
yeah.
this ordinance is allowing you to do what you did, with it not being properly registered and all these other things. And then on top of that, if someone just goes and parks a boat out there for 48 hours, that then gives you the ability to enforce this or do some.
Not as it stands now, no.
That's what I'm saying, like, that's what it reads right now, the new edition, that number 8. Not what's currently on there.
No,
Yeah.
not what's currently on there, yeah.
Okay.
I have one comment. What if someone was to secure their vessel to the city docks off
Yeah.
Upper Bay Road?
Brian Brown.
That's not an anchor point. So then we have to think about, maybe we need to say, or secures to any object.
Did you hear from Brian Brown?
Yes, he's
Yes, I did
concerned about
too.
that.
Because because I directed him about his maritime committee, and they talked, and I'm glad you raised that, is they didn't want the now city-owned finger piers. They used to be homeowners-owned things, but they're now city-owned, and how this ordinance applies to those finger piers on Upper Bay Road.
Doesn't number 8 cover that because it's not a private slip or private dock?
Well, they're not private anymore.
Yeah, they're not.
So it's unmanned and left secured to an anchor point not located in a private slip or dock. So that.
It's
So it's
on
a
the
public
private-
slip. So
Right,
just
so
to
it's
make
still-
sure it's
right.
covered, because
Okay, what about a tree?
I think
on
that,
the peninsula?
It's not
Yeah.
private.
That-
That's
that's
not a
what-
private dock.
yeah, so if it's not anchored to a private dock or a private slip, so if it's anchored to the finger piers, which is public, or to a tree, that is not a private slip or a private dock, and it would fall under that 48
Is that
hours.
considered an anchor point? I don't really know. Is it like?
Anywhere you anchor.
No.
Anywhere you anchor, that you just tie, that's an anchor point? I don't know the boat verbiage, so. Okay.
What, no, I think it's, yeah. As long as that's covered, I'm good.
I think
Well,
we're
and
covered.
also, with it being a tree or something of that sort, I think that might fall under number 4. It has broken loose or is in danger of breaking loose from its anchor point. And if it's not really, or from its anchor, if it's tied to a tree, I think that would be in danger of breaking loose, so would potentially fall under that.
Yep.
This is just a first reading, right?
This is just a first
Okay.
reading. Yep.
But, and also, how do we prove that someone's been off of this boat for 48 hours?
Would be great to have cameras out there.
That would help.
I mean, we've also, we could be strict enough that we say you can't be anchored or docked or whatever in Nassau Bay on a non-private anything overnight. We
Yeah.
want to take it a step further.
I'm not so you want to do, I mean.
I don't know if you wanna do that either, but-
I don't think we
Because
wanna
we're
do
still a
that.
recreational thing, and if somebody's out there, if you've got a properly motorized, registered, lit boat with all your safety gear and everything like that, you should be able to anchor in the cove.
Agreed, but can I anchor outside your house for 3 weeks?
You can,
If I'm staying on the
there's certain limits as to how far they can be to a fixed
Fair,
things,
yeah,
and as long
yeah.
as they're outside
feet or whatever it
that,
is,
whatever,
yeah.
yeah, then they should be. They do.
Okay,
But don't leave your boat for more than 48 hours.
But you don't leave your
Unmanned.
boat more than 48 hours. That's right.
uncrewed.
Uncrewed.
And but it has to be a functioning boat, too. Right?
Okay, that's what we want.
Yeah,
I think-
these are neglected or deteriorating
Correct.
Yeah,
vessels.
correct.
So,
Correct, just
Yep.
throwing that out there.
No, I think that's good. So what I'm hearing is this is wholly up. We got the change identified by the city attorney, and hold this over to a second reading
Correct.
and move on? Okay.
Yes.
Then with that, I want us to move into executive session. It is 8:20. The city council will now hold a closed executive session pursuant to the provision of Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, in accordance with the authority contained in 1, Section 551-087, Texas Government Code, to deliberate regarding economic development negotiations, and 2, Section 551-071, the Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney, closed meeting on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governing body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this charter or chapter. It is again 8:21. Is 10:16 and we are back in open session. Do I hear a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Do I have the vote? All those in favor? Passes 7-0.
Maria, do you want to make a post?